Commander Vexthal looked at the green and blue planet on his screen. It was a small world that went around a yellow star. His people, the Zephyrians, had found many planets like this one. They always did the same thing with planets that had smart life on them. First, they would watch and learn. Then they would demand that the people there give up and serve the Zephyrian Empire. It always worked. The planet was called Earth by the people who lived there. These people called themselves humans. Vexthal's scout ships had been watching them for months now. The humans seemed simple and weak. They had small rockets that could barely reach their own moon. Their weapons were basic. They still fought each other in wars instead of working together. "Sir, here is the report on the humans," said Officer Naltek, handing him a data pad. Vexthal read through it quickly. The humans had split themselves into many groups called countries. These countries often fought each other. They had weapons that could destroy cities, but these weapons were very simple compared to Zephyrian technology. Their fastest ships took months to reach their own moon. The Zephyrians could cross star systems in days. "How long do we think it will take to make them surrender?" Vexthal asked. "The computer says 30 days at most, sir. Maybe less if we destroy a few of their cities." First, Vexthal nodded. This would be easy, just like all the others. The Zephyrian Empire had taken over 17 star systems this way. They would arrive with their big ships. They would show their power by destroying something important. The local people would get scared and give up. Then the Zephyrians would take their resources and make them work as slaves. The humans would be no different. They were divided and weak. Their technology was hundreds of years behind Zephyrian science. Vexthal had seen the recordings of human wars. They used crude explosives and simple bullets. They had no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light communication. They were perfect targets. "Send word to Admiral Kethmer," Vexthal ordered. "Tell him the humans are ready for conquest. We can begin the standard protocol." What Vexthal did not know was that the humans had noticed his scout ships. Earth's space agencies had been tracking strange objects near their solar system for weeks. At first, they thought these objects might be asteroids or broken satellites. But the objects moved in patterns that made no sense for natural space rocks. Dr. Sarah Chun worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Chile. She had been watching these strange objects for 3 weeks. Tonight, she finally had proof that they were not natural. "Director Martinez, you need to see this," she called to her boss. Director Martinez came over to her computer screen. On it was a picture of space near Jupiter. In the picture was a long, thin object that glowed with a soft blue light. "What am I looking at, Sarah?" "That object has been following the same path for 2 weeks." "But look at this." Sarah pressed a button, and the image changed. This was taken 6 hours ago. The object had moved to a completely different position. It had traveled millions of miles in just a few hours. "That's impossible," Martinez said. "Nothing we know about can move that fast." "Unless it's not from here," Sarah replied quietly. Within hours, the news had reached the highest levels of every major government on Earth. Secret meetings were held in Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and London. Military leaders looked at the data and came to the same conclusion. Earth was being watched by someone with technology far beyond human abilities. The President of the United States sat in the Oval Office with his top advisors. On the table were photos of the alien scout ships. "How many are there?" he asked. "We've identified at least 12, Mr. President," said General Morrison. "But there could be more. Our satellites can only see the ones that reflect light or give off heat." "What do they want?" "We don't know, sir. They're not trying to communicate with us. They're just watching." Similar conversations were happening in every major capital. The leaders of the world's most powerful nations found themselves facing something they had never planned for. They had weapons designed to fight other humans. They had no idea how to fight beings from another world. Meanwhile, Vexthul continued his observations. He watched human news broadcasts and learned their languages. He studied their military forces and their weapons. Everything he saw confirmed what he already believed. The humans were primitive and divided. They would be easy to defeat. He was particularly amused by their nuclear weapons. The humans seemed to think these crude bombs were powerful. A single Zephyrian plasma cannon could destroy a city and leave no radiation behind. Their energy shields could stop any human weapon. Their ships could move faster than anything the humans had ever built. "Sir, we finished mapping their major population centers," reported Officer Neltek. "Good. Mark the ones with the most people. Those will be our primary targets when the fleet arrives." Vexthul looked at the list. Cities called New York, Tokyo, London, and Moscow topped the list. Destroying one or two of these would probably be enough to make the humans surrender. They were emotional creatures who cared about their families and homes. A show of force would break their will to fight. How long until Admiral Kethmer arrives with the main fleet? 4 months, sir. 4 months to watch and wait. Vexthul was confident this would be another easy victory for the Zephyrian Empire. The humans had no idea what was coming. They had no weapons that could hurt Zephyrian ships. They had no shields to protect their cities. They had no way to escape to other planets. But as Vexthul watched the humans during those 4 months, he began to notice things that puzzled him. When human countries went to war, they fought with a violence and determination he had not seen. In other species, they used tactics that seemed designed to cause maximum damage, even to themselves. They turned their own buildings into weapons. They fought in ways that other species would consider crazy. He also noticed how quickly humans could learn and adapt. When one country developed a new weapon, other countries would copy it and improve it within months. They shared information with their enemies just to gain a small advantage. They were willing to sacrifice everything to win. Still, Vexthul was not worried. Determination and violence meant nothing against superior technology. The humans could fight as hard as they wanted. They could not fight Zephyrian plasma cannons with bullets and explosives. As the months passed, more human governments became aware of the alien watchers. Secret agreements were made. Information was shared. Plans were discussed. But always in secret. The people of Earth continued their normal lives, not knowing that their world was about to change forever. Admiral Kethmer's fleet was the pride of the Zephyrian Empire. 100 ships, each the size of a human city. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could stop any known weapon. Soldiers trained in the conquest of dozens of worlds. The fleet was almost ready to leave for Earth. Soon, the humans would learn what it meant to face the power of the Zephyrian Empire. Commander Vexthul was confident it would be over quickly. He had no idea that humanity was about to teach him the difference between being watched and being hunted. Admiral Kethmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Victory. Through the large window, he could see the blue and green planet called Earth. His fleet of 100 warships floated in space around him. Each ship was armed with weapons that could destroy cities. Each ship had shields that could stop any attack the humans might try. "Open communication channels to all human frequencies," he ordered. "Channels open, Admiral," reported his communications officer. Kethmer had given this same speech 17 times before to 17 different species. The words always worked. Fear was the same everywhere in the galaxy. "People of Earth," his voice boomed across every radio, television, and communication device on the planet. "I am Admiral Kethmer of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world is now under our control. You have one choice to make. Surrender now and become servants of the Empire, or be destroyed. You have 72 hours to give us your answer." To make his point clear, Kethmer ordered his ships to fire warning shots at Earth's moon. Massive plasma beams struck the lunar surface, creating craters that could be seen from Earth with simple telescopes. The message was clear. This is what will happen to your cities if you refuse. On Earth, chaos erupted. Every government emergency system activated at once. Phone lines crashed as millions of people tried to call their families. Stock markets around the world stopped trading. Military bases went to maximum alert, but something else happened that Admiral Kethmer did not expect. Something that had never happened in any of the 17 previous conquests. President Williams sat in the emergency bunker, deep under the White House. Around the table were the leaders of every major nation on Earth, connected by secure video links. The Chinese premier spoke first. "We all heard the alien message. They want us to surrender or die. What are our options?" asked the Russian president. General Morrison pulled up military reports on his screen. "Our nuclear weapons might damage their ships, but we're not sure. Their technology is far ahead of ours. A direct military fight would be very difficult. So we surrender?" asked the French president. "No." The voice came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah Chan had been brought into the meeting as an expert. "On the alien ships, we don't surrender." "Dr. Chun, with respect, you're a scientist, not a military leader," said the British Prime Minister. "That's exactly why you should listen to me," Sarah replied. "I've been studying these aliens for months. They're bullies. They expect us to be scared and give up. But look at what they did. They gave us 72 hours. Why would they do that? If they could just destroy us right now?" General Morrison looked interested. "What do you mean?" "Think about it. If they wanted to destroy Earth, they could have done it already. But they want us to surrender. That means they need something from us. Maybe they need us alive to work for them. Maybe destroying planets is expensive. Maybe they're not as strong as they want us to think." The president leaned forward. "So what do you suggest? We tell them no. But first, we get ready." In the next 72 hours, something happened that had never occurred in human history. Every war on Earth stopped. Not just paused, stopped completely. Soldiers who had been shooting at each other in the morning were sharing intelligence by evening. The war between India and Pakistan ended with a phone call. The civil war in Syria stopped when both sides saw the alien ships on television. Terrorist groups put down their weapons and offered to help their governments fight the aliens. Countries that had been enemies for decades began working together. Israel shared military technology with Iran. North Korea opened its borders to South Korean engineers. The United States sent its most secret weapon designs to Russia and China. Admiral Kethmer watched all of this from space with growing confusion. In his experience, primitive species always fought among themselves when faced with invasion. They would argue about who should lead. They would refuse to share resources. They would try to make separate deals with the invaders. "Sir, the humans are acting strangely," reported Commander Vexthal. "How so?" "They've stopped all their wars. They're sharing military information with their enemies. They're moving resources between countries that hate each other." Kethmer frowned. This was not normal behavior for a primitive species. "Are they preparing to surrender?" "No, sir. They appear to be preparing for war." Meanwhile, in secret military bases around Earth, the greatest minds of humanity worked together for the first time. Scientists from MIT worked alongside engineers from Moscow University. Military experts from the Pentagon shared strategies with their counterparts in Beijing. Dr. Chun found herself leading a team of physicists from 12 different countries. Their job was to figure out how alien technology worked by studying the energy signatures from the warning shots. The plasma beams use a frequency we've never seen before, she explained to the group. But the power source seems to be based on controlled fusion, just like our experimental reactors. Can we build weapons to fight them? Asked Dr. Petrov from Russia. Maybe, but we need more time and more resources. You'll have both, said General Morrison, who had been listening from the doorway. Every nuclear power plant on Earth is being converted to produce weapon-grade materials. Every factory that can be retooled is switching to military production. Every university is focusing on alien technology research. Dr. Chan looked amazed. How is this possible? Countries don't share this kind of information. They do when they're. Survival depends on it, Morrison replied in the final hours before the deadline. Humanity made a decision that surprised everyone, including themselves. The answer would be delivered by Secretary General Maria Santos of the United Nations. She was chosen because she represented all of humanity, not just one country. The aliens had expected to receive humanity's surrender from whatever leader was most afraid. Instead, they got a message from a woman who spoke for the entire planet. Admiral Kethmer watched the transmission with interest. The human female looked calm, not terrified like he expected. Admiral Kethmer, she began, I am Secretary General Maria Santos, speaking for all the people of Earth. We have heard your ultimatum, and we have made our decision. Kethmer leaned forward. Finally, the humans would surrender like all the others. Our answer is no. The Admiral stared at the screen in shock. No species had ever refused his ultimatum. We will not surrender our world to you. We will not become your slaves. If you want Earth, you will have to take it from us. Maria Santos paused and looked directly into the camera, as if she could see through space to the alien ships. We suggest you leave now while you still can. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Admiral Kethmer sat in stunned silence. In 300 years of conquest, no primitive species had ever threatened him. They had just declared war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Commander Vexthal. Kethmer's shock turned to anger. These humans dared to threaten him? They dared to refuse the generous offer of servitude? They would learn what happened to species that defied the Zephyrian Empire. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. Target their largest cities. Show them what defiance costs. But as the alien ships powered up their weapons, something else was happening on Earth. In every major city, air raid sirens began to wail. But people did not run to hiding places. Instead, they went to their jobs. Soldiers went to their bases. Scientists went to their laboratories. Engineers went to their factories. For the first time in human history, the entire species was working toward the same goal. The humans had chosen war over slavery. They had chosen to fight rather than surrender. Admiral Kethmer was about to learn why that was a very bad thing. For anyone who threatened humanity, the first plasma beams lanced down from space toward the cities of Earth. The war had begun, but neither side yet understood what kind of war it would be. The plasma beams from Admiral Kethmer's ships hit Earth cities at exactly noon. Greenwich Mean Time. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Beijing were the first targets. The alien weapons burned through buildings like a hot knife through butter. Entire city blocks vanished in seconds. Kethmer watched from space as the human cities burned. This was always the moment when primitive species broke. They would see their homes destroyed and beg for mercy. The humans would be no different. But as he watched, something strange happened. Instead of panic and surrender, the humans seemed to get angry. Very angry. In what remained of New York City, Fire Chief David Rodriguez climbed out of his destroyed fire station. Half his men were dead. The station was a pile of rubble. But instead of running away, he grabbed his radio. All Units, this is Rodriguez. We've got fires all over Manhattan. Every available truck, get to work. We save who we can save, and we make them pay for the rest. Similar scenes played out in every attacked city. In London, police officers pulled survivors from burning buildings while calling in coordinates. To military units. In Tokyo, civilians formed rescue teams and began digging through rubble with their bare hands. But it was what happened next that made Admiral Kethmer realize he had made a terrible mistake. Within 6 hours of the first attack, every human military unit on Earth went to full combat status. But they did not do what Kethmer expected. They did not attack his ships directly. Instead, they began to fight like no species he had ever encountered. General Morrison stood in the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center. The building had been damaged in the attack, but it was still working. Around him, officers from every branch of the military worked at computer screens. "Sir, we've got good news and bad news," reported Colonel Sanders. "Give me the bad news first. The aliens have destroyed roughly 30% of our major cities. Casualties are in the millions." Morrison felt his jaw tighten. "And the good news? They made us mad. Every reserve unit in the country is reporting for duty. We've got volunteers showing up at bases faster than we can process them. And sir, the other nations are reporting the same thing. This was not how conquered species were supposed to behave. When the Zephyrians had attacked the Keltons of Rigel 7, the survivors had hidden in caves and begged for mercy. When they had bombed the Vorthan homeworld, the leaders had surrendered within hours. But humans seemed to get stronger when they were hurt. Dr. Sarah Chun worked in an underground laboratory that had been hastily built beneath the ruins of the MIT campus. Around her, scientists from around the world studied pieces of alien technology recovered from the attack sites. The plasma residue shows they're using magnetically contained hydrogen fusion, she explained to her team. The containment field has a specific frequency signature. Dr. Petrov from Russia looked up from his computer. If we can disrupt that frequency, their weapons might backfire, finished Dr. Kim from South Korea. They had been working for 18 hours straight. Above them, rescue teams were still pulling bodies from the wreckage of Boston. But down here, the smartest humans on Earth were learning how to fight back. Meanwhile, Admiral Kethmer prepared for the next phase of his conquest, landing troops on the planet to establish control over the surviving population. "Sir, the first landing force is ready," reported Commander Vexthal. "Good. Send them to the largest remaining cities. The humans should be ready to surrender by now." The first Zephyrian landing craft descended toward what remained of Los Angeles. Inside were 50 Zephyrian soldiers, each armed with plasma rifles and protected by personal energy shields. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. But as their ship landed in downtown LA, they found a very different kind of enemy waiting for them. Sergeant Maria Gonzalez had served 3 tours in Afghanistan before the aliens came. She had fought in house-to-house combat in Iraq. She knew how to fight an enemy that had better weapons and technology. "Remember," she told her squad over the radio, "they've got better guns, but they don't know this city like we do. Use the buildings, use the sewers, use everything." When the alien soldiers left their landing craft, they expected to find frightened civilians. Instead, they found themselves in a carefully prepared killing zone. Every window had a sniper. Every alley had explosives. Every street corner had machine gun nests hidden in the rubble from the earlier bombardment. The Zephyrians had energy shields that could stop human bullets, but their shields could not stop falling buildings. They could not stop explosions that came from below through the sewers. They could not stop attacks that came from 6 directions at once. Within an hour, 30 of the 50 alien soldiers were dead. The survivors retreated to their ship, only to find that human engineers had filled the landing thrusters with concrete. "Sir, we're getting reports from all landing sites," Commander Vexthil told Admiral Kethmo. "The humans are not fighting like any enemy we've encountered before." "What do you mean?" "They're using their own cities as weapons. They're destroying their own buildings to kill our soldiers. They fight like they don't care if they die, as long as they take us with them." Kethmer studied the reports coming in from the surface. Human casualties were enormous. But somehow, Zephyrian casualties were even worse. This made no sense. Primitive species were supposed to value their own lives above all else. "Sir, we're also getting strange energy readings from around the planet," added the science officer. "What kind of readings?" "The humans appear to be building something. Multiple facilities are drawing massive amounts of power. In secret bunkers around the world, humanity was indeed building something. Dr. Chan's team had figured out how to disrupt alien plasma weapons. Now they were building devices that could project that disruption field over large areas. But more importantly, they were building something else. Human engineers had always been good at taking enemy technology and making it better. They had done it with German rockets after World War II. They had done it with Soviet computers during the Cold War. Now they were doing it with alien technology. "We've got a working prototype," Dr. Chan announced to the international team over a secure video link. "It's crude, but it works." On her laboratory table was a device that looked like a cross between a human missile and an alien plasma weapon. It used human rocket technology to deliver an alien-inspired warhead. "How many can we build?" asked General Morrison. "If every factory on Earth switches to production, maybe 1,000 in the first month." "Do it," Admiral Kethmer was beginning to realize that this conquest was not going according to plan. But he was still confident in his superior technology and training. The humans were putting up more of a fight than expected, but they were still primitive. That confidence lasted until the first human counter-dash attack. It came not from the ground, but from space. Human engineers had modified their existing rockets to carry the new hybrid weapons. The rockets were crude compared to Zephyrian ships, but they were fast and they were hard to track. The first missile hit the Zephyrian ship Conquest of Worlds while it was bombarding the remains of Chicago. The hybrid warhead penetrated the ship's energy shield and exploded inside the hull. "Sir, we've lost the Conquest of Worlds," reported Vexthil in shock. "How is that possible?" "Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields." "Unknown, sir." But the explosion came from inside the ship. More human missiles streaked up from Earth. They were fired from hidden launching sites that had been built in the ruins of destroyed cities. Each one used what humans had learned from studying alien technology. But it was not just the technology that was winning the fight. It was how the humans fought. They did not try to protect their cities. Instead, they used the ruins as camouflage for weapon sites. They did not try to save their infrastructure. Instead, they turned bridges and highways into traps for alien landing forces. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to learn from every battle. Each attack was different from the last. Each trap was more clever than the previous one. By the end of the first month, Admiral Kethmer had lost 15 ships and most of his landing forces. The humans had lost millions of people and dozens of cities. But somehow, the humans were winning. "Sir, I recommend we retreat and call for reinforcements," suggested Commander Vexthil. Admiral Kethmer stared at the planet below. No primitive species had ever forced him to consider retreat. But these humans were not like any enemy he had faced. They fought like they had been born for war. And perhaps he was beginning to realize they had been. 6 months after the first alien attack, Dr. Sarah Chun stood in a laboratory that did not exist on any official records. It was built 300 feet underground, beneath the ruins of what used to be Denver. Around her, The best minds from Earth worked on projects that would have been impossible just a year ago. "Show me what we've got," she said to Dr. Petrov. The Russian scientist pointed to a sleek ship that filled most of the underground hangar. It looked like nothing that had ever been built on Earth before. The hull was made from a new metal that combined human steel with alien materials. The engines used human fusion technology improved with alien power systems. "We call it the Revenge," Dr. Petrov said with a slight smile. "It can travel from Earth to the Moon in 6 hours. The alien ships take 8 hours to make the same trip." Dr. Chun walked around the ship, amazed at what human engineers had accomplished. "How many do we have?" "This is the 15th. We're building 3 more each week." Every underground factory on Earth is working on the project. But it was not just the ships that had changed. The humans themselves were different. Now Captain Jake Morrison had been a commercial airline pilot before the war. Now he was the squadron leader for Earth's first space fighter group. He and his pilots had learned to fly by studying captured alien flight systems and combining them with human aviation knowledge. "Listen up, people," he told his squadron over the comm system. "Intelligence says the aliens have a supply convoy coming in from the outer system. 12 cargo ships with light escort. This is our chance to hit them before they reach the main fleet." His pilots were men and women from every nation on Earth, former enemies who now flew together against a common threat. Chinese pilots flew alongside Americans. Israeli pilots worked with Iranian pilots. All of them had lost homes and families to the alien attacks. "Remember," Morrison continued, "we're faster than they are now, but they still have better shields. Use hit and run tactics. Get in fast, hit hard, get out before they can lock onto you." The human ships launched from hidden bases built into asteroid mining stations. The aliens had never thought to look for human military bases in the asteroid belt. They had assumed humans were too primitive to build anything so far from Earth. Were wrong about many things concerning humans. Admiral Kethmer sat in his command chair, reading casualty reports that made no sense. His fleet had started with 100 ships. Now he had 67. He had lost more ships fighting humans than he had lost in the previous 10 conquests combined. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from command," reported his communications. "Officer, put it through." The image of High Admiral Zorvin appeared on the main screen. Zorvin was the supreme commander of all Zephyrian forces. He looked displeased. "Admiral Kethmer, explain to me how a primitive species has destroyed 33 of your ships." "Sir, the humans are not fighting like other primitive species. They adapt very quickly. They learn from every battle. And their technology is improving at an impossible rate." "Are you saying they have superior technology?" "No, sir. But they have something else. They have the will to sacrifice everything to win. They turn their own cities into weapons. They use their own people as bait for traps. They fight like every battle is their last battle." High Admiral Zorvin frowned. "I am sending you reinforcements. 50 ships under Admiral Drexen. End this quickly, or you will be replaced." The transmission ended. Admiral Kethmer knew his career was over unless he could defeat the humans soon. But every day, they seemed to get stronger while his forces grew weaker. What he did not know was that the humans had been listening to his communications for months. Commander Lisa Park had been a signals intelligence officer in the U.S. Army before the war. Now she led an international team that monitored all alien communications. They had broken the Zephyrian communication codes 3 months ago. "We know about the reinforcements," she reported to General Morrison. 50 ships arriving in 2 weeks. "Can we stop them before they reach the main fleet?" "Maybe, but we'll need to use everything we have." Everything humanity had was considerable now. The underground factories had produced over 100 new ships. Human scientists had reverse-engineered alien technology and made improvements that even the Zephyrians had not thought of. But more importantly, humanity had learned how to fight as one species instead of as separate countries. Colonel Maria Santos had been a military advisor to the United Nations before the war. Now she commanded combined forces from 12 different nations. Her soldiers spoke different languages and came from different cultures, but they all understood the mission. The alien reinforcements will arrive at the edge of our solar system. In 14 days, she briefed her officers. Intelligence suggests they will link up with the main fleet near Jupiter. We will intercept them before that happens. Her plan was ambitious. Human ships would hide in the asteroid belt and wait for the alien reinforcements to pass. Then they would attack from multiple directions at once, using tactics no alien species had ever encountered. Remember, Santos told her commanders, "We are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to win any fight. Use every advantage. Hit them when they are not expecting it. Make them think we have more ships than we do." The battle took place near the orbit of Mars. The alien reinforcement fleet was traveling in standard formation, confident that no primitive species could threaten them in deep space. They were completely unprepared for what humanity had learned to do. The human ships attacked from the asteroid belt, using the rocks as cover. They fired their new weapons from multiple angles, making it impossible for the aliens to know how many ships they were fighting. But the real surprise was the weapons themselves. Human engineers had not just copied alien technology. They had improved it. The new human plasma cannons fired faster than alien weapons. The new human shields could absorb more damage. Most importantly, the new human ships could coordinate their attacks in ways that confused alien targeting systems. Admiral Drexen watched in horror as his reinforcement fleet was torn apart by an enemy they should not have been able to reach. Space. In 3 hours of fighting, he lost 30 of his 50 ships. "Retreat to the main fleet," he ordered. "Send word to Admiral Kethmer that the humans have ships in deep space." But the message never reached Admiral Kethmer. Human pilots had learned to jam alien communications during battle. The surviving alien ships limped toward Jupiter, not knowing that human forces were already waiting for them. There, Dr. Sean monitored the battle from the command center beneath. The ruins of Washington, D.C. around her. Screens showed the positions of human and alien ships throughout the solar system. Phase 1 complete, she reported to the International Leadership Council. "We've reduced their reinforcements by 60%. Phase 2 begins when they reach Jupiter." Phase 2 was even more ambitious. Human ships had been hiding near Jupiter's moons for weeks, using the planet's radiation to mask their presence. When the damaged alien reinforcement fleet arrived, they found themselves caught between two human task forces. This time, the battle lasted only 1 hour. When it was over, Admiral Drexen was dead, and only 5 alien ships had escaped to reach. The main fleet. Admiral Kethmer received the survivors with growing despair. Of 50 reinforcement ships, only 5 remained. The humans had destroyed an entire fleet in deep space, something no primitive species should have been able to do. "Sir," reported Commander Vexthul, "we also have reports that human ships have been seen near our supply bases in the outer system." "That's impossible. They don't know where our bases are." "Sir, they appear to know everything about our operations. Our communications may have been compromised." Admiral Kethmer realized the terrible truth. The humans had not just learned to fight back. They had learned to hunt. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kethmer began to consider the possibility that he might lose this war on Earth. Human survivors worked in their underground cities with grim determination. They had learned that they could defeat the aliens. Now they were preparing to make sure the aliens could never threaten Earth again. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was very good at hunting. 2 years after the first alien attack on Earth, Admiral Kethmer stood alone on the bridge of his flagship. Through the window, he could see only 23 ships remaining from his original fleet of 100. The humans had destroyed the rest dot, but today brought news that made even those losses seem small. "Sir, urgent message from the Zephyrian homeworld," his communications officer announced, fear clear in his voice. "Put it through." The message was not from High Admiral Zorvin. It was from Emergency Command, the group that only took control during the worst crisis in Zephyrian history. "All fleet commanders, this is Emergency Command. The Zephyrian homeworld is under attack. Unknown ships have appeared in our home system. They are using our own technology against us. All available forces return immediately." The message ended. Admiral Kethmer stared at the screen in shock. The humans had found Zephyria, the heart of the Empire. They had traveled across the galaxy to bring the war to his people's home dot. It should have been impossible. The Zephyrian homeworld was protected by the largest fleet in the galaxy. It was surrounded by defense stations that could destroy entire invasion forces. No primitive species had ever even found it, let alone attacked it. But humans, Admiral. Kethmer was learning, did not do what other species did. The attack on Zephyria had begun 3 days earlier. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chun, former scientist and now Supreme Commander of Earth's Space Forces, stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Terra's Revenge. Around her ship, 200 human vessels waited in the darkness between stars. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships ready, Admiral," reported Captain Morrison. "The alien home system has 3 major defense platforms and approximately 150 warships. And our advantages? We know their technology better than they do now. We've improved their weapons and made them faster. Most importantly, they're not expecting us." Shun had spent 2 years planning this moment, while Admiral Kethmer had been trying to conquer Earth. Human intelligence teams had been tracking every alien communication, mapping every alien base, learning the location of every Zephyrian world. "Begin the attack," she ordered. The human fleet had learned to fight in ways that terrified their enemies. They did not attack in the neat formations that military academies taught. Instead, they swarmed like angry insects, hitting from multiple directions while using asteroids and space debris as cover. The first target was Defense Platform Alpha, a massive space station that protected the approach to Zephyria. The platforms. Commanders had never seen ships like the ones attacking them. Human vessels moved faster than any Zephyrian ship. They fired weapons that seemed to predict where targets would be instead of where they were. Platform Alpha is reporting heavy damage. The communications officer pulled Admiral Chun. "Their shields are failing." "Good. Phase 2. Phase 2 was something no alien species had ever attempted. Human ships broke into small groups and attacked multiple targets at once. Some hit the remaining defense platforms. Others went after the Zephyrian fleet. Still others headed directly for the planet itself. High Admiral Zorvin watched the battle from the command center on Zephyria. He had never seen an enemy fight like this. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once. "How many ships are they using?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. They keep splitting into smaller groups. Our sensors show different numbers every few minutes." This was another human innovation. Instead of keeping their fleet together, they had learned to fight as many small units that worked together. It made them nearly impossible to track or target. But it was the human weapons that truly shocked the Zephyrian defenders. The aliens recognized their own plasma cannon technology, but the human versions were more powerful. The humans had taken Zephyrian designs and made them better. "Sir, Platform Beta is gone," reported the tactical officer. "Platform Gamma is requesting permission to abandon station." "Denied. They will hold their positions." But Platform Gamma was already gone, destroyed by a coordinated attack from 12 human ships that appeared from behind Zephyria's largest moon. On the surface of Zephyria, citizens looked up to see their mighty space fleet being torn apart by an enemy they had been told was primitive. Burning ships fell from the sky like metal rain. Admiral Chun watched the battle with grim satisfaction. But this was not about conquest. This was about making sure the Zephyrian Empire could never threaten another world. Target their military production facilities, she ordered. Destroy their shipyards, their weapons factories, everything they used to build fleets. Human missiles, guided by 2 years of intelligence gathering, struck every major military installation on Zephyria. The aliens had scattered their facilities across the planet, thinking distance would protect them. But the humans had mapped every target during their long preparation. High, Admiral Zorvan realized that his empire was dying. In one day, the humans had destroyed what it had taken centuries to build. Send surrender terms, he ordered his communications officer. What terms should I offer, sir? Zorvan had no idea. In 300 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never surrendered to anyone. The reply came from Admiral Chun herself. Her image appeared on the main screen of the Zephyrian Command Center. She looked tired, but her eyes held no mercy. Hi, Admiral Zorvan. I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chun of Earth. You have one choice. Withdraw all Zephyrian forces from every world you have conquered. Release all slaves. Destroy all weapons of planetary bombardment. Do this, and we will leave your homeworld intact. And if we refuse? Chun's expression did not change. Then, we will do to every Zephyrian world what you did to our cities. The choice is yours. Zorvan looked around his command center. Every screen showed human ships destroying Zephyrian defenses. His mighty empire was helpless against an enemy that had learned to outfight, outthink, and outbuild them. I accept your terms, he said quietly. But Admiral Chun was not finished. There is one more condition. You will broadcast a message to every species in this galaxy. You will tell them that the Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. You will tell them that humans will hunt down any species that tries to conquer other worlds. You will make sure that everyone knows what happens to bullies who pick on smaller species. The broadcast went out across the galaxy within hours. On 17 different worlds, former slaves of the Zephyrian Empire looked up to see their masters, ships leading their skies forever. The message was simple and clear. Humanity had ended the age of easy conquest. Any species that wanted to build an empire would have to face Earth's fleets first. Admiral Kethmer received the surrender order while still orbiting Earth. He read it 3 times before he could believe it. Sir, our orders are to return to Zephyria immediately, reported Commander Vexthal. I know. Kethmer looked down at the planet that had destroyed his career and his empire. Send a message to the human leadership. What should it say, sir? Kethmer thought for a long moment. Tell them that we underestimated them. Tell them that we thought they were primitive because they still fought among themselves. We did not understand that they were not fighting to destroy each other. They were practicing. The final Zephyrian ships left Earth's solar system 3 days later. They would never return. In the underground cities of Earth, humans began the long work of rebuilding their world. But they also continued building ships. The galaxy had learned that Earth could defend itself. Now Earth wanted to make sure the galaxy stayed peaceful. Admiral Chun stood in the rebuilt United Nations building in New York. Through the window, she could see the construction crews working to repair the damage from the first alien attack. But she could also see the launch towers where Earth's new space fleet was being built. Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy, reported Captain Morrison. 12 different species have sent messages asking for Earth's protection. From aggressive neighbors, Chun nodded. The humans had not wanted to become a galactic power. They had just wanted to be left alone. But when someone had threatened their home, they had shown the galaxy what happened to bullies. Send replies. To all of them, she ordered. Tell them that Earth will protect any peaceful species from conquest. But also tell them that we expect them to help defend themselves. Humanity had learned an important lesson from the war. They were not alone in the galaxy. There were other species that wanted to live in peace. But there were also species that wanted to conquer and enslave. The humans would make sure the peaceful species survived, and the conquerors did not doubt in the years that followed. The galaxy would learn that humans kept their promises. Species that tried to build empires through conquest found their fleets hunted down by human task forces. Species that wanted to live in peace found themselves protected by human bases. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of human protection had begun, and in the ruins of the Zephyrian Empire, former slaves began to rebuild their worlds, knowing that the humans were watching to make sure no one would enslave them again. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity's true might, but they had also learned that humans only used that might to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. It was a lesson that would never be forgotten.